Welcome, everyone, to the Meaningful Hearts podcast, where we discuss the everyday questions that make us or break us if we let them. With your hosts, Drew and Daniella. Take our hands and let's walk this journey together. Welcome back, everyone, to the 100th episode of the Meaningful Hearts podcast with Daniella and Drew.
Woohoo!
We would like to talk about this milestone, even though this is the 101st episode, talking about 100 episodes looking back.
I'm going to go back and count exactly whether it's 100 or 101.
It's either 100 or 101. Either way, we've hit a milestone in this podcast. And we'd like to talk about what that journey was like and how we ended up here.
Ooh, I have a question.
Okay, answer. Ask.
I think that I would like to hear what the journey has been like for you, considering you started the podcast and I eventually joined it. I know you were trying to convince me for a while and I was really shy.
And now,
here we are.
Now look at you.
Now I actually did a whole episode by myself.
She's a beast at this.
But I would genuinely like to know about what this journey has been like for you as a whole.
Well, this podcast has spanned more than a couple of years. I mean, almost going on, I think, 3 years.
When you started the pandemic, 2020?
Give or take. I know it's like two and change somewhere. But in any case, so much has happened since I started till now. My life has gone in so many different directions. But I guess planning to start this podcast, the objective really never changed as far as my intentions. And I think that's something that I wanted to make sure that I didn't deviate from. And that was being able to help people out in this world, even if it's one person, change their life. It would have been all worth it, right? So in doing so, that was the plan from the very beginning, regardless of what happened in my life. And I had a lot of things happen up and down. Amazing things, bad things. But I think ultimately to get to this point in this milestone, looking back and saying, wow, I didn't go from this type of podcast to that type of podcast, and it evolved into this thing, and it doesn't even look or feel the way it did from the beginning. I think that it got stronger and better. And then when you came along, it just skyrocketed to quality, and even it added on to the message, and it added on to the vision. And here we are today. I can't believe it's still going strong, and we're doing more and more and more to get the podcast to that next level.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear. It definitely is something exciting to be a part of. And I know I listen to your podcast very thoroughly.
There's evidence of notes upon notes upon notes upon notes.
It did. And I know that there's a lot of things that have happened in your life. And I think going from, yes, the premise was the same, building a meaningful life and helping people. But I also can see the difference in the episode structure after I came on. Not to blow smoke up my own butt, but I think in general, even hearing your take on things and the way that you see things, I'm actually remembering one episode in particular that I had listened to, and I remember you saying, I knew you were going to get to that episode. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The episode about love?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think in that episode, you and I hadn't met yet. And so your take on love and being alone was, I don't think I remember feeling like it was coming from like a bitter standpoint, but I think it was coming from, you were conflicted. Like, I like being alone, but then I also would like to be with somebody. And I remember we had a conversation about it. And then when you and I started dating, the conversation was, I guess, different. But it's all in all, I think, reflecting on it, the growth within the podcast itself and the content. Yes, the base, the premise has stayed the same, but I think we've gotten deeper in a lot of ways. I think I just rambled, but it's okay.
No, I think that like I said, we talk about ups and downs and evolution and thought process. I think that as we discover new things in life, our opinions change, and we're humble enough to shift our opinion, even if it opposes what we were initially believing or thinking of, right? And I think that's growth, right? I think that represents our model, and what we preach is growth and betterment. And to look back at episodes from the past and say, I don't necessarily wholeheartedly agree with that, but the message is still there, and the understanding and the I guess the direction is still there. I think that ultimately that proves what we want to do with this podcast. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can definitely understand, and I think it's a great point. Just because you are somewhere at one point doesn't mean you're going to stay there.
Correct.
And your mind could change about things. So I can definitely understand.
So I do believe in love, as you can see. But it came on, I guess, my terms, and it came on her terms, and awesome enough that we're in the similar places in our lives, and we accepted what came our way. And I think that's the beauty of it all. And it couldn't have been, this journey as a whole would not be possible without an audience, because if there's nobody to share this with, or there's no message to help, to help bring people to different places in their life, I don't think that I would have started this podcast to begin with. As crazy as it sounds, like some people, I guess, are selfish. I mean, you have to do it partially for yourself. It does help me to reflect back, like almost like a live journal. But I ultimately think that without an audience to share this with, I don't think there would be a point, because we're here to help and serve and be better.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's a moment to appreciate those who are listening to you and I ramble every week.
Yeah. So Daniela came on, I would say, what, the 60 plus mark, 60 or so episodes in.
I don't remember specifically when. I know that part of you, like the conversations that we were having, you had actually not recorded episodes, like you had taken a break. And part of the conversations that you would tell me was that you thought I would bring really good insight and a whole different perspective. So maybe around the 60th or so episode, to know for sure, I'd have to go back and look at my notes.
Well, I'm sure that she will do that and get back to.
I'm going to go and count. Like, at what point did I join?
So my question to you, Daniela, is, what is your vision for the next 100 episodes to come?
Oh my goodness.
We're starting from scratch. The next 100 or so, 99 or so episodes are going to be us and our next journey in this podcasting space and beyond. So what's something that you aspire to accomplish within that?
I would say one of them is to hopefully reach more people. I know that, the premise is if we can help one person, then it's all worth it. But it's also a really rewarding feeling when you know you're helping multiple people. And that's definitely part of it. I would say continuing to, like, in a lot of ways, I am inspired by doing this with you because then I can look for things to share. Like, I know you're constantly listening to other podcasts, and I'm constantly, well, not constantly, but within my work, I'm also looking for new things on how to help people, looking for things on how to help myself. And they say that the best way to learn something is to teach it to somebody else. And so continuing to bring knowledge and wisdom and, also like topics that people can relate to, because you and I are two individuals. We're both working professionals, but I think more than anything, what we bring to this podcast is ourselves and who we are. And my hope is that in continuing to be that, in continuing to be raw and vulnerable and honest, that it'll naturally help people and to reach more people. I would say those are the two main things, if that made sense.
Very much. Very much so.
Yeah, I make a lot of sense sometimes.
You make a lot of sense sometimes?
Yeah. It's funny. I say that to some clients or patients sometimes, where I'll say something and they'll be like, oh, that makes sense. And I'll be like, yeah, I make a lot of sense sometimes. And then they'll laugh.
70% of the time it works every time.
Yeah. So that's my goal. What about you?
So
you can't take mine.
No, it was initially mine because it was my vision from the very start.
I know. No.
I want to reach more people. I mean, that is the goal, right? To grow this, to reach more people, to discover new topics. I believe discovering new ways, new forms of information, things that are going to evolve us past where we've been and bring us to a spot where we're going, and look back and say, wow, we're so much more enlightened. Wow, we're like light years ahead. Like, I want to look back and reflect and be like, damn, we were there. We were so in the basement. Now we're at least in the middle of the house, and then we'll work our way to the ceiling. Like, I want to be able to look back and say, wow, we're revolving, constantly benchmarking, constantly growing. Hopefully getting some more guests on the show to talk about new things. I would love to have more of that on the show. Invite people in. Daniella came aboard. I would love to invite people, experts in their field, to come on more and talk about it. Danielle is an expert in her field in a lot of ways, and I would like for her to expand upon that and add more of those elements in. I very much look forward to that, because you only hear us on the microphone, but off the mic, she's constantly working, constantly learning, developing, and studying up on new materials. And every day I get to see her grow, and I talk to her, and it's amazing. So I want more of that element. I want more of those professional elements in there, because I can only speak on my experiences, but I'm not a professional in these spaces. I am a professional, I guess, in my career sales space. But when it comes to betterment of self, Daniella really does work with people on a daily basis through a lot of different scenarios. So I would like to see more of those elements played out on this show.
And with that, with you saying that, I actually think what I would want listeners to take away from this specific episode is, other than listening to us rant about our 100th episode, is that it really is so important to celebrate accomplishments, whether that's something really big or something really small. I think a lot of the times we're our own worst critic. And I do this work a lot with patients where there's some patients where they literally have homework assignments every week to write down their wins of the week. And it's phenomenal to see how a person's mindset changes as they pay attention to the wins of the week. At first, some people are like it flows. Other people have a harder time, identifying wins of the week. Some people might have wins and don't know that it's wins. And so encouraging to get in that habit to celebrate themselves. It's phenomenal to see how their mindset changes, and they'll say, I thought of you. I had this win this week and I couldn't wait to share it with you. I love hearing that. And so for our listeners, again, who are listening to us rant about our 100th episode, I would also encourage you to think about what's an accomplishment that you've had today. What's an accomplishment that you had yesterday and the day before and the day before that? Can you think of at least one accomplishment that you've had every day so that you make it 7? And it doesn't have to be big things like, reaching an 100th episode is phenomenal to me, because I know there was a point where I was so terrified, and I know I haven't been here for the whole 100 episodes, but Andrew can attest to this. When he would first say, hey, you should really come on, I would be like, no, like that's not me. And to be where I am now, listening, having a conversation, even getting to do my own, right? Or like recording my own episode. It really is such a good feeling. And I hope that I can inspire others to do that for themselves. So that was my take.
That's awesome.
And Andrew was like, yeah, go baby.
Celebrate wins, little wins, add up to big ones. And to piggyback off what you said about, yes, you were scared at first, and then all fast forward through having your own episode. I think that's another element I want to add to, is where we have some solo episodes where I might be a take from something I'm doing, or a take from what she's doing, and kind of evolve that a little bit more, because that kind of happened by pure like chance that it just worked that way. But in doing so, we discovered something in our format that we're going to add. And as of right now, that's something that I'm thinking that I want to add to that next 100 mark. And I think that we can possibly add maybe more episodes in the future, in the week, maybe do something a little different. So we'll be in the lab, taste testing some ideas.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, here's to 100, and here's to 100 more.
And 100 more after that.
Yes, ditto. Thank you all for listening. We love you all.